Welcome to Crow Wing County's Planning Commission and Board of Adjustment meeting. It's 3 o'clock on January 15th, 2025. And if you would please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, and if you have not already done so, will you please silence your cell phones? And if you are online joining us with this meeting, please make sure that you have muted your microphone until you are ready to speak. And please note that this public hearing is being recorded. The first item on the agenda is roll call. Rock Lilenemy.
Here.
John Auger.
Here.
Sue Maskey.
Here.
Andy Larson.
Here.
And I am Rebecca Best. The next item on the agenda is to approve the minutes and findings of fact for the meeting held and...
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'm sorry, we're at the election of officers.
Oh,
Item
I'm sorry
2,
about
so-
that. I just automatically went to the
Yep.
minutes.
Yep.
We are at the election of officers under review and approve.
Well, I'll handle that part of
Sounds
the
great.
agenda. All right, well, thank you, Madam Chair. It is 2026. Happy New Year to everybody. We need to elect our officers for 2026. We need to elect the chair first, so I would take nominations for chair for the Planning Commission Board of Adjustment for 2026.
I would like to nominate Becky Best as chair.
Okay, so we have a nomination on the floor for Becky to be chair. Are there other nominations? Are there other nominations?
I nominate Jean Auger for vice president or vice chair.
Okay, so we have nominations on the floor for Becky as chair, John as vice chair. Are there other nominations for vice chair? Any other nominations for vice chair? So so based on the information provided, we'd be looking for a vote unanimous ballot to choose and elect Becky and John to fill the roles as officers for 2026.
I would so move.
Thank you, John. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Madam Chair, if it's okay, I'll take item 2.2 as well.
Sounds great.
So every year, we go through our rules of business, and it's something that we review at the January meeting. This really just goes through all of the ways that we handle our business. It's available for the public on our website. It's also what's used by staff as we do the meetings, as well as the commission members when we do our business. And so staff have reviewed this, and we do not recommend any changes at this point.
I'd make a motion to accept.
I think we have a comment first. Is it okay if we take a comment
Make
first?
a comment. I've had conversation with Chris regarding rule number 19, Robert's Rules of Order. My township training and other training suggests that when you not to adopt Robert's Rules of Orders, because if you adopt it, then by process, you must strictly follow Robert's rules in your proceedings. And I want to ensure that we don't adopt something that somebody's going to come back and make a process issue if we don't specifically and strictly follow them. So in conversation with Chris, since it hasn't been reviewed for a while, he'd like to review it with the appropriate folks. So I was prepared to offer a motion to table this to February so that Chris can do that and then bring it back, if that's the willingness of the board.
That sounds reasonable to me.
Yeah.
So I would so move.
Second.
So we have a motion on the table and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, sign. Negative, opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Madam Chair, I'll pass over item 2.3 to you for minutes and findings of fact.
Okay, and we do need a motion for approval for the minutes and findings of fact of our December 18th, 2025 Planning Commission and Board of Adjustment meeting.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'd make a motion to approve the findings of facts and the minutes.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll
Second.
second it.
Second by Sue. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Tonight, we have 5 items of new business. However, 2 of those, 3.2 and 3.3, the Cobblecrest Properties LLC applications have been tabled at this point by the applicant. So I would call our first applicant, which would be Keith and Jody Sutterman, but I think I still need to continue my introductory comments that
Madam Chair, could I just I know online, there's a couple, I know that Steve is online as well as Tyler. Just want to make sure you guys caught that we're not going to be considering those, the plat or variance until the February meeting.
Yes, I did catch it, just was listening in.
Okay, sounds very good. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I did as well. I'm sorry to interrupt. I heard as well. Thank you for saying that, and I likely will sign up soon.
Okay, thank you. So tonight we have then we would end up having 3 items of new business and no items of old business, and we do greatly appreciate your patience as we go through our procedure. And that is when we call your application, you will be admitted to the meeting. If you are online or if you are in person, please come to the table in the front, have a seat, and state your name and address for the record. Then we will have Nicolette read your request into the record. We then will give the applicant, an opportunity to add any new information that has not been previously submitted. After that, we will open the request up for public testimony. And tonight, we will have 2 public testimony opportunities, one in person here and the other online. If you are online and wish to speak to an application, please use your hand icon to indicate to us that you wish to speak. Then once you are admitted, please unmute your microphone and state your name and address for the record. If you are speaking in person, please come to the microphone on the podium in the center of the aisle. In either case, you will be given 5 minutes to give your testimony. Please do not repeat what someone else has said, and please do not read your emails or letters that have already been sent. Everyone who wishes to give testimony will have the opportunity to do so. Once we close public testimony, we will not reopen it. We then will bring it back to the applicant to address the items brought forth from the public. Our rules of conduct are please be respectful. For the applicant, this means to sit quietly during the public testimony period, and for the audience, it means to do the same for the applicant as they respond to your testimony. All questions and statements are to be directed to this board or members of the staff, not to the applicant. Anyone that I feel is being disrespectful or not following these rules will be asked to leave or will be disconnected from the meeting online. The decision process. For a preliminary plat or land use map amendment request, we make a recommendation to the county board. For a variance or conditional use permit request, we make the final decision. We make our decisions based on our findings of fact. To help us do that, we do several things. We do on-site visits where we physically go to the property and examine the site and look at what is being planned. Prior to attending this meeting, we each read every letter and email that is submitted, and then we hear public testimony and we listen to the applicant. I'd like to pause for a moment to let the public know that we do greatly appreciate your correspondence and input. We have all read the submitted comments. In addition to that, we have a worksheet that we use to help summarize the findings of fact. Preliminary findings have been included in our staff packet. Next, I will ask each board member if they have reviewed the preliminary findings of fact that were provided in the packet. Andy.
I have.
John.
I have.
Sue.
I have.
Rock.
I have.
And I have as well. So with that, our first applicant this evening will be Keith and Jody Soderman for a land use map amendment. If you want to come up to the table right up front here.
I just have a question, pardon my interruption, but I don't always hear perfectly. This Cobblecrest
Yes.
is canceled?
It has been tabled.
Tabled, so it's not happening today?
It's not happening today.
When did that get tabled?
I believe it was sometime this afternoon.
So I drove here from Minneapolis just for a nice drive?
I apologize for
Well,
the
is there a way to let
inconvenience.
people know when something's going to be canceled?
It's,
The applicant can't.
The applicant canceled it,
requested
we-
to table at the last minute.
Sorry.
So we don't have any additional information as to why it might have been tabled? I mean, is there a
I think,
concern or
I think after reviewing some of the comments, the applicant just wants to further,
digest the information and?
yes,
okay.
exactly.
And when will additional information be available online?
So the process will be just like it was for this meeting. So there'll be a notice will be mailed out to everybody in the neighborhood like it was before. That gets out 10 to 14 days before the meeting. It's published in the newspaper, and then all the information will be published on our website the week before the meeting. And so the meeting date for February, if I can open up my calendar, is going to be the 19th, and so everything will be up on our website on February 12th. The
Okay.
packet will be up
Okay.
for public review.
Thank you. We
Yeah.
would just respectfully ask that if there is going to be another delay, that be communicated timely.
Yeah, this one was more last minute by the applicant deciding that they wanted some additional time, so we
Okay.
apologize for any inconvenience.
We also have availability to participate via Teams if you'd like to, so you wouldn't have to maybe make the drive up. So if that's an option for you to consider for the next meeting. The problem that we have is that if somebody says they're going to table the application, I don't have your phone number. I don't have a way, I don't have a way so when it happens.
That's fine. We
so-
will be here in person. I think it just is more impactful.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. Thank you.
Yep,
But, there's nothing on the Teams site. Could
So
you post a sign or, it's just not logging on, right?
Whoever's online, could you please mute, please?
Oh,
I didn't understand what he was saying, if he was speaking to what we were just talking about or
Okay.
not. Thank you. Okay, so our first applicant is Keith and Jody Soderman for a land use map amendment. If you'd like to come up to the table up front, please. Hi. If you'd state your name and address for the record, ouch.
Keith Soderman, and my address is 3068 County Road 23, Brainerd.
Thank you. And would you like to read the request into the record, Nicolette?
Yes, Madam Chair. Tonight's applicant is property owner Keith Soderman at parcel number 761-90533. This is located in Section 19 in Maple Grove Township, and the current zoning is Agricultural Forest District. The request tonight is a land use map amendment to go from agricultural zoning to rural residential 5. Let's scroll down here to page 9. I just want to show you where this property is located. So the property is highlighted in red. It is a 20-acre piece, and it is about a quarter of a mile from County Road 23. You can't really see 23 here. It goes along these properties right up here and before it goes in between Upper and Lower South Long Lake. Mr. Soderman owns this 20-acre piece along with parcel 7690534 and parcel 7690532. Mr. Soderman has expressed that he would like to split off a 5-acre piece of land with an existing house that is up in this northern west corner, and he would like to sell it to his son and retain the rest of the acreage that he has, keeping it agricultural and for the family farm. Looking at the map, there is rural residential 5 immediately to the west. And a comment was received from the township stating they had no issue with the rezoning application of Mr. and Mrs. Soderman. No other applications were received, and there are no proposed conditions for this request. I can answer any questions.
Any questions from the board? Is there anything that you'd like to add?
No, she hit it right on the head.
Okay, then we will open up this request for public testimony. Is there anyone who would like to address this online? Doesn't look like there is anyone there. So we'll bring it back to the board for discussion and further action.
Madam Chair, may I ask a question, please?
Yes.
So we're confident there'll be access to the 5-acre lots, or is that what happens when they split the lots at a later date? And if there wouldn't be, then they couldn't split off a particular lot. Is that the right understanding?
Correct. So the parcel, if this were to be rezoned to rural residential 5, the parcel being split would be in the corner, and it would have direct access to Solderman Road, as well as the remaining tract. Solderman Road goes across the north here of the two parcels.
But today we're doing the whole 20 acres, so there could be future 5-acre parcels, obviously.
Correct.
And that each would have to have access by their own determination when that time comes. Is that right? Okay, thank you.
If I can comment to that. So the 5 acres around the house right now, that's all I'm gonna zone the 5, and I'm gonna combine another 75 back into agricultural. It's all gonna be one piece. So there's no intent to lot off that 20 acres in any smaller pieces. I have 2 sons. The one's living in the house right now. My other one, if he does decide to build at some point, at that point, I might do another one, another 5 pit just for him. But my intent is to keep the family farm as intact as I can in one piece. It's just I'm trying to protect it from if something happens and they have to sell the house, it's only a 5-acre chunk of it that gets impacted.
So Madam Chair, if I may, thank you, but we're rezoning 20 acres, are we not? So I hear him saying he only wants 5, and then he wants to keep the rest agricultural, so I'm confused. Why would we rezone the 20 to 5-acre and then get a request to rezone 15 back to agricultural? That's what I heard him say he would like to do. Did I hear that right?
So
Yes.
yes, you did hear that right. We unfortunately don't have the ability to rezone half. Oh, we could? So, with the ability to, would you like the ability to create another 5-acre piece in the future for your son? For your other son?
At some point, maybe, I don't know. They're both so young right now. My intent is just to protect that 5 acres around the house.
Okay.
And then if my other son does decide he would like to build on that property, then I'd come back and do.
And you would like to come back and
I would have
rezone the
to,
rest
yeah,
at
I'd
that
come
time?
back and,
Okay,
because at that point, he might want to build on Mogensen Road. I don't know.
sure.
Is there any reason why it couldn't, the whole parcel could be rezoned now and he do exactly what he's planning on doing anyway?
Yep.
Correct, yes.
So that basically, we would be looking at all 20 acres, and what you choose to do with this along the line, you could break them up into 5-acre parcels or continue with the use as is my understanding from what you're saying.
Correct.
Okay. So then it almost makes sense to do it now, so you wouldn't have to really do anything in the future then if you wanted to have the 5-acre parcels.
Yeah, and it goes back to the tax rate too. I don't know what the residential is going to tax different than agricultural either.
I think the use is what the tax is, isn't it?
Correct, but again, it's hard for us to make those decisions here because that's not our area of expertise.
Right.
So, Madam Chair, I guess I guess I don't know if we were maybe completely aware of wanting to only do the 5 acres to the north. I think you would have the option if you wanted to, just to say we're going to rezone the top, the 5 acres to the north as parcel as R5 and the remaining left as agricultural. It would still meet the requirements. It would still, it would meet the 5-acre for that piece. And then if the rest of it's going to be combined into that larger tract, then we wouldn't have any issues with that either. So I really think you'd be better off just doing the 5-acre right now, because I think there's going to be more headaches for you down the road if we don't, because I don't think you want to combine those into one large tract, correct? The remaining 15 acres and
The remaining 3 I would. I'd put them all into one piece.
I guess if that was the case, then it wouldn't be an issue because the lots would meet the requirements for the ag zoning. And I mean, it's a little unusual. We don't, this is not something you can kind of see we're struggling with a little bit. It's not something we typically do, but I have seen some lots be zoned to different zoning classifications, and I don't think it's not a problem.
Madam Chair, I mean,
Yes.
I don't have an issue with doing that whole 20. I mean, he uses it agriculturally. RR5 doesn't say you can't do agricultural business, on RR5. I mean, if he, in the future, wants to give his other son 5 acres, or maybe he needs to sell 5 acres to a relative, would like to buy, it gives him an opportunity to do that without having to come back before this board every time he wants to do a 5-acre piece. I have no issue with doing that 20 to RR5. He can still use it as ag, and it abuts rural residential 5.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
If I may. I agree, but I'm listening to the applicant say, I want to keep the other 15 agricultural, and I want to see if I want to keep it that, because it might be better from a tax evaluation standpoint. So what I don't want to do from this, I think we look kind of, quite frankly, stupid if we send a recommendation to the county board to rezone all 20, and then we get a request 2 months down the road, well, let's rezone 15 back to agriculture. We want to send that on to you. I just don't think that looks good.
I just texted the county assessor, who is the guy that puts the value on, and he said, no, the value is based on the use, not on the zoning. So if it goes to zone to R5.
The use,
it
not the
won't
zoning, is
It
what
won't
he
affect,
said.
it won't, the value, it's going to be based on how you're using the property, so.
Okay.
So I would recommend doing the full 20 as 5 acres, and
That's
then that gives you flexibility down the road and for what you want to do, how you want to do that, and it won't
And
affect
to be
your
honest, the other
taxes.
thing too is I don't want to make it too easy in the future for somebody to come in there and lot it all off either. I don't want somebody to be able to come in there and put 3 other, for some reason, if that gets sold. Like I said, that farm is going on its 4th generation now, soon to be 5. And that's why the whole 80 would stay what it is now, except for, once again, the next generation is moving on, they're starting their own family. I just want to have a minimal area that could, if something happened and they had to sell it, it's not 20 of it that gets sold.
Yeah, so, Madam Chair, if
Yes.
I may, the request that's in front of us, and here's my point, the request that's in front of us is not what the applicant is asking for. Even though that's what's in front of us, and I understand why it's in front of us, but of course, if we rezone it to 5, it could be sold for 4 5s. Sure. That's in fact what could happen.
Yeah, right.
And so my point is, I don't want to recommend something to the county board. He's going to go to the county board and say, that's not what I want. And then why do we have a recommendation to do that? So could is this appropriate to maybe table this because it needs a little discussion to get what he really wants and how we do this? Or where are we at with it?
Madam Chair, Johnny, I think you have the option to table it if that's something that you would like. Or you do have the option to say, we think it's appropriate for the northerly 5 acres of this parcel to be R5, the remainder to stay in the agricultural district, and then, knowing it's going to be combined with the other parcels so that it meets the zoning requirements. So I think you have that ability today to do that if that's what you want.
Because, Madam Chair, if I may, so I'd support doing that. I wouldn't support doing the 20, because as I say, that's not what the applicant wants.
Right.
And if we send that on to the county board, and he goes there and says, that's not what I want, I don't think we look very good in our recommendation. So if it's agreeable, I don't know if other people, how you feel, but I mean, I'm okay with the top 5.
Yes, Rob?
My concern would be the northwest corner, not the north portion, 5 acres, because that's what he wants, is that northwest corner, correct? Not the northwest
corner.
Northwest corner.
So it's not the north 5 acres?
What's that?
It's not the north 5 acres is what you,
It'd be a 5-acre corner out of that 20.
if that's the route you want to go, then we're going to have to probably get some other information, like a survey, so we can have the legal description of what that would look like. I'm not sure how we could do that today, because we're not going to know.
The exact
And I guess you could say,
description.
528 feet by 416 feet. That makes 5 acres.
there you go.
Madam
That works
Chair,
too?
Yes.
I would be intending to table this till next month so we can sort that out and get the right information, because generally when we do this on the fly, it doesn't always work out, right? So, because I want to make sure that the applicant gets what he's requesting and that we can send it on and that the county board isn't going to have somebody
So-
saying, that's not what I want, so.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I understand what John's doing, and I understand, because I like to see a site plan showing the dimensions of what he's taken out of there, you know. The other thing, question I have, Chris, if we do that, just that corner for 5 acres, we can't condition rezones. What guarantees that he's going to combine those 2 parcels into making it the current ag standards?
I'm going to combine all 3.
There would be no need.
We wouldn't need to, we're only taking off 5 acres. The rest is still a parcel, isn't it?
Yeah, there's 2 20s there, so it's not, if it was the 40, it wouldn't be an issue, but there's 2 20s, so,
You'll have to agree to something and
We
working it
got
out.
3 parcels. They're contiguous, but we should have 3 parcels.
yeah. Yep.
So how do we guarantee that those 20-acre parcels are combined into one
Well, I'm going to combine it with that
to
40
make
as
sure
well.
that,
Yeah, I think what they're saying, Keith, is that
Yeah.
we can't require you to do that. And so what they're afraid of is if we only change the zoning to that 5 acres, the remaining tract is 15 acres, which wouldn't meet the zoning requirements of that. So, but it already doesn't meet the zoning. It's already 20 acres in an ag as it is. So I think I would be in favor of tabling it. We'll bring the legal back to you guys next month. And then,
if we're not going to do the whole 20, I would be in favor of tabling it so we know exactly what the measurements are and where that 5-acre parcel's coming out.
It sounds like we
So
have
unless
agreement on that
nobody
plan.
else wants to weigh in before I make that motion, I would move to table to February.
There's a motion on the floor to table this, and there's a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. This will be
we'll
tabled until
we'll give you a
next
call,
month.
and we're going to have to talk about this at our next meeting in February. We'll give you a call.
Okay.
Right, thank you.
Because going back to the commitment to doing it, is I already got the form to combine them, but I have to go through this first before I combine the other parts.
Right, this is the step, he wouldn't be here.
Right.
That's the only
I'd like to do it
way.
all at one time if I could.
Yeah, and we will. We'll get back to you.
We'll get there. Thank you for your time. Okay, our next applicant would be Gregory Smith and Timothy Smith for a variance.
Yeah, this is Gregory Smith. I'm attending online.
Okay, and if you could state your name and address for the record, Gregory, please.
Yeah, Gregory Smith, P.O. Box 829, Lakeside, Arizona, 85929.
Thank you. And Nicolette, if you could read the request into the, oh, I'm sorry.
Cindy Hitty with Stillmark Land Surveying.
Sorry,
PO Box
Cindy.
875874, Pequot Lakes, Minnesota.
And Nicolette, if you could read the request into the record, please.
Yes, Madam Chair, tonight's applicant is property owner Greg Smith and Tim Smith, parcel numbers 502-905-02 and 502-905-79. This is located in Bay Lake Township, and the request tonight is for a variance for Type 3 septic system site suitabilities where Type 1 site suitability is required for all parcels. And this is to install a Type 3 septic system on the proposed lots A and B within the administrative subdivision. So I'm going to go to page 65 here and just show you, these are the 2 parcels. They're located on Megan Court by Hanks Lake, and then Megan Road that runs north and south here. The properties are non-riparian, and there is a proposed administrative subdivision creating 4 total lots out of those 2 parcels. It is a requirement by ordinance that all new parcels have 2 Type 1 septic site suitabilities. A Type 1 septic system site would consist of at least 12 inches of good soil. Good soil meaning 12 inches from the very top layer with no indication of saturation within those 12 inches of soil. Proposed lots A and B do not have 2 sites with at least 12 inches of soil without an indication of saturation. The septic professional who completed the septic site suitabilities only found 8 inches of soil before reaching a saturation layer. There were notes placed on the site suitabilities from this professional that stated proposed lots A and B were low and a seasonal high water table was found. Type 3 septic systems are permitted on parcels with limited space, disturbed soils, or high water table areas with an approved design and an over-the-counter permit. Staff spoke with the MPCA for clarification, and the MPCA stated that all new lots need to have a suitable site for a type 1 septic system, but it is not a requirement that a type 1 septic system is installed. A type 2, 3, 4, 5 could be installed once a lot is created. It just needs to be suitable for that type 1. A type 3 septic system for these properties would consist of bringing in 3 feet of wash sand for the creation of a drain field. It is the understanding of staff that a type 1 septic system with 2 feet of sand and a type 3 septic system with 3 feet of sand will effectively treat wastewater the same. A recommendation to deny was received from the township, and the township's concerns were that 2 lots within the administrative subdivision did not meet the non-riparian lot size standards. There may be some confusion on that because all 4 parcels within that administrative subdivision do meet the non-riparian requirements for Hanks Lake. No other comments were received and no conditions are proposed with this application. I can answer any questions.
Thank you. Is there anything that you'd like to add?
I don't believe so at this point.
Okay. This time, then, we'd open it up to public testimony, and seeing no one in the courtroom, and I don't know if there's anyone online. Seeing none, we will bring it back to the board for discussion and further action.
Madam Chair, I'd like to ask Chris. Chris, a type 3, is that like the advanced treatment?
No. No, so when Nicolette mentioned about the soil requirements, so for a type 1 system, you need to show that you have that top 12 inches doesn't show a seasonal saturation in it. What that means is that typically in the springtime when the snow melts, you're going to have the water's going to hang up in that top part of that upper 8 inches in this situation for a couple weeks, and then it's going to go away. And when it hangs up in the water that long, in the soil, it leaves what's called redoxamorphic features, iron depletions from the water, and that's what we use to measure our separation from. And so it doesn't mean that this is a low spot, it doesn't mean this is wetland, it doesn't mean that. It just means, and it's got some loamy soil, which is actually a really a good soil for septic systems. For some reason, in this situation, it doesn't drain as well in the springtime as it should. So anything that gets built out here is going to be a slab on grade. There's not going to be any basements going to be going in here because of those reasons. But a type 3 system simply means that you don't have that separation. So think about if you have a mound and you have 12 inches, you're going to put 2 feet of sand in to get your 3 feet, which is required for the treatment. On a type 3, you're going to put the 3 inches of sand, or the 3 feet of sand on top, which is going to be your 3 feet, plus you'll have your 8 inches already. So you'll end up having, 3 inches, or you have the 3 feet of clean sand for the treatment, plus the 8 inches of dry soil that you already have in the ground. So, and we see, it's common to put in type 3 systems. It's very, very common in Crow Wing County for that.
So basically, it's more sand and a higher mound than what a type 1 would be.
Correct.
It's basically what the difference between
That
the
would be
two is.
correct, yep.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
my question is, backing up before the sand issue, is what constitutes, for example, a wetland? And I ask that because I'm very familiar with this piece of property. And in the spring and then like last year through midsummer, virtually this whole piece of land, except maybe 20 feet on the far eastern side, is standing water. It's a bayou. And how does a wetland delineation relate to that? I mean, on a speed, you could canoe in this area if it's certainly in the spring and depending on how wet it is in the summer.
Madam Chair, I can answer that question. So first, there was a wetland delineation that was performed by Ben Meister in September for this property. The Board of Soil and Water for the state of Minnesota set the standards for what constitute as a wetland, and you have to have primary indicators of your primary wetland vegetation. You have to have hydrology within the first 12 inches of the soil layer, and then you have to have key soils that show that restriction. And so the state of Minnesota has an outline of what those primary indicators are, and if you don't find them on site, then it's not a wetland. And if you do, of course, then it is. So Ben is a certified wetland professional at the state, and he used those indicators to find that boundary. Now, does it mean that there is seasonally holding water, like you said? It's quite possible.
So, I don't mean to be silly, I'm just, so being able to canoe a piece of land doesn't necessarily mean it's a wetland, is what we're saying, according to the definitions that we're operating under. Okay. Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I have a question on that topic as well. So if there's only a foot of separation, then they would have to add minimum of 2 feet of fill, even 3 feet?
3 feet
For-
for the mound system.
But how about for the lowest floor in the house?
So can you pull the floodplain map up?
Because don't you have to have 3 foot of separation between the lowest floor so that even if it is a slab on grade?
We don't have the map. We don't have a,
Oh, floodplain map on
yep,
here.
yep, right there.
Got it.
So that shows you your floodplain right there. So so there's no floodplain back in there. And so the floodplain trumps that, because what you're talking about is 3 feet above the ordinary high water mark of the lake. And we've had actually conversations with DNR about that. And the actual FEMA elevation for the floodplain on the lake trumps the 3 feet above the OHW. So they wouldn't have there'd be no restrictions on as far as height of building a new structure out there.
Just more of a buyer beware.
Yeah, I would be, I guess, at some point, Madam Chair, I think it'd be great to have the applicant maybe explain what, the property itself and what he's seen out there. I know Greg's online at some point, man, I'm not sure if now's the time or not, but it'd be great to hear from him as well.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I have a question for Nicolette to make sure I heard her correct. I thought I heard you say that the MPCA's requirement is that the parcels must be suitable for a type 1 septic system. That's what I wrote down.
Correct.
But you don't have to install a type 1.
Correct.
Okay? But in our findings of fact, we say that the lots A and B are not suitable for a type 1 septic site. So therefore, they would not be in this, right? So we're talking about four lots ultimately, right?
Only proposed lots A and B within this, let me bring up the certificate of survey here. Only tract A and B, proposed tract A and B cannot find 2 site suitabilities.
Yeah, so I read that. That's why lots A and B would need a type 3, right?
Correct.
That's right. But again, if I understood you right, the MPCA requirement is that a lot must be suitable for a type 1.
Correct.
Right? I think and you're confirming that, but you don't have to install a type 1. And I want to go back to the text of our finding of fact says the proposed administrative subdivision does not have 2 suitable type 1 septic sites for proposed lots A and B. So our finding of fact says, in fact, it does not meet the MPCA's requirement.
And that's why they're asking for the variance.
And they're asking for a variance.
Yeah, that's why. That is the fact about it not.
So we have the right to vary from the state requirement?
We do. It's an ordinance requirement. I've actually been in contact with other counties who are having some of these similar discussions in other counties too that have had this actually happen recently down in Morrison County. So,
is it? And if I may ask one more question, then is it? And do they have that requirement because type 1s are preferred and far better in protection of water resources and other things?
A type 1 system is the preferred system. There's no question about it. That's what we would prefer to go in. If somebody were to come to our office today and say, can can I put in a type 1 system instead of a type 3? We'd say, can you put in a type 1 system? If they could put in a type 1, they put in a type 1. I mean, that always is the, type 3 systems are in situations where you can't put in a type 1 system because of the issues with the lot that Nicolette mentioned. Sometimes a type 3 system means I can't make a type 1 work. So a type 3 system sometimes is smaller. It's not as the drain field might be a little bit smaller, or there might be a situation where, maybe 20 years ago, somebody was on there and they really roiled up the soils and they mixed them all up and the soils are all disturbed. A type 3 is for that, and then a type 3 is for in those situations where you have a little bit of a higher water table. So those are really the 3 times that you would see a type 1 system put in. And so that's what they're asking is, they're saying, yes, the requirement is to put a type 1, is for have type 1 site suitability, is they're asking, can we have type 3 instead of type 1? That's the request.
Okay.
So, Madam Chair, question, it doesn't have to do with the septic. I'm looking at the administrative sub, track D. They're going to have access of Maghan Court?
No.
Is there an existing access there, or are they going to go through a wetland?
We have a revised drawing that's, we show a 33-foot strip along the south line of track C.
Oh, so they're going to
From-
get an easement through track C to track D?
Correct.
Okay. I just want to make sure that, yeah. I mean, it has nothing to do with the variance, but it was just a question. Okay.
Any further discussion?
So, go to the findings.
Findings of fact?
I apologize. Findings of fact are on page
I have 87.
page 87.
Madam
Has to
Chair.
review these, and do you have some additions or changes you'd like to see
Well,
made?
go up to question 1. I see what John is saying, where it says the ordinance requires each parcel to have 2 suitable, and then does not have 2 suitable. Maybe we could change that second sentence in that to say the proposed administrative subdivision does not meet the requirements for a type 1 septic system, but could install a type 3 septic system for tracks A and B. Just reword it a little bit.
For a little bit more clarity?
A little more clarity, that it,
I'm okay with that. Well, what I'm just kind of troubled by is our ordinance requires type 1. It says that in our findings. The MPCA requires it. And I realize we have a variance in front of us to say we don't want to do that, but I'm listening to the conversation, Andy's questions, et cetera, and saying, I realize we could, but is it a good idea? That's my question. We can, but just because they want to create 4 administrative subdivisions, is this in this area a good idea? That's what I'm struggling with. And I could turn that same ordinance requirement around and say that's a good explanation for no. Because there's a reason why we have those requirements. And I've been educated in the training and when we talk to contractors and so on, that we're the second largest septic county, if I'm remembering that, in the state, and how important that is to our groundwater, our waters, right? So that's where I'm coming from, listening to Andy's question, et cetera. It's there for a reason, and I'm not sure, or I'm just asking the question, interested in other people's thoughts, is this a good idea in this place? That's my question.
I think it's debatable. Not to be, it just really is.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I'm going to rely on the septic designer. I mean, he says that it can't meet a type 1, but they can put a type 3 in, and I mean, effectively, like it says, a type 3 septic system and a type 1 effectively treat wastewater the same. it's, even if they did administrative subdivision for 3 lots, if you combine one A and B, it's still gonna need a type 3 septic system. And if he sold that property to anybody, and they wanted to put in a septic, build on that, put a septic, it's gonna be a type 3, no matter what, because of the water table.
Hey, Madam Chair, this is Greg Smith. May I speak?
Certainly.
So what we're doing is taking 2 lots that we've owned for over 40 years and basically splitting them into 4 lots. They're all oversized by county requirements. 2 lots comply to type 1. 2 with a variance would comply to type 3, which is just as acceptable as type 1. It's just costing the owner of the lot that additional money to bring in 3 feet of fill to make the same type septic system as type 1. So we're not asking for a variance to not meet requirements. We're just asking for a variance to accept type 3.
Madam Chair, if it's okay. Greg, could you address the comment about the water on the lot and, you know, what that looks like on a, you know, maybe on an average rainy year? You know, is there standing water? As, you know, Andy observed it. He lives in that area. Could you maybe just talk about that a little bit?
You know, part of all 4 of the lots do have some water that's considered marshy year-round, but the majority of all 4 lots are dry year-round. I mean, I guess if there was a 100-year rain, you might have that, but once again, the type 3 septic system meets all the requirements of type 1. It's just the expense of the landowner to bring in that additional fill.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'm not going to beat it to death, but I just want to comment that if type 3 and type 1 are the same, then why do we have a county ordinance that says we require type 1 systems and that's our preference? Because that's the statements that have been put on the record here, so I'm just questioning that.
So what we try to communicate in the findings is that they both effectively treat wastewater. Is there a difference between, is a type 1 better than a type 3? I don't know if there's ever been any, you know, study to say that, but if somebody were to, like I said, if somebody comes in today, we're going to say a type 1 system can go in, that's what you have to install. At the same time, if somebody came in and said, I'd like to just put 3 feet of sand on because I think it's the right thing to do, even if they could have put a type 1 in, we wouldn't say no to that either. And so, you know, if the point, I mean, the point being that the state is, and this has been a rule since 1996, and the state is basically wanting to make sure that we're not, you know, constructing sites that don't have a way to take care of their wastewater. This is the first time I've seen this happen in, frankly, I've been doing this for almost 20 years. I've never seen a situation like this before. So this is not the norm. This is definitely outside the norm. But as far as would a type 3 septic system treat the wastewater on this site? Yes, it would. And if it wouldn't treat the wastewater, then I don't think the state would allow it in the rule as an option for a septic system as well.
Madam Chair, again, not to beat it to death, but the 2 lots currently are suitable for type 1. So the action that's making it not suitable is wanting 4 lots.
Correct.
Correct. Okay.
Yep.
How would you like to proceed, folks?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
So currently, I don't know, can you bring up the survey? And we might have to bring up the septic thing. Is this a plan, right? Okay, so currently this dotted line right there, that is parcel and then second parcel. So this is dividing the 2 parcels that he's dividing into 4. The top parcel would have to have a type 3 septic system if he didn't subdivide it regardless. Because that's the site, that's the area, that is not, that doesn't meet type 1. So even right now, if he decides, well, okay, I'm not gonna subdivide it all, this piece of property has to have a type 3. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Madam Chair, I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay, please proceed.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the variance for a Type 3 septic system site suitabilities where Type 1 septic site is required for all new parcels, to install a Type 3 septic system for proposed lots A and B with the change to that finding in the first finding.
Okay, we have that, we have that noted here.
Yep.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Roll call.
So roll call would be in order.
Okay, Andy,
Oppose.
John,
Opposed.
Sue,
Aye.
Aye.
Brock, aye, and I would vote aye as well.
Okay, 3-2, thank you.
So motion carries.
Thank you, board.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Our next and last application for this evening would be Robert and Monica Pessola for an after-the-fact variance. He's online.
Yes, I'm online, Madam Chair.
Okay, and Robert, if you could state your full name and address for the record, please.
Robert Pasola, 18868 Nelson Fork Road, Deerwood, Minnesota 56444.
Thank you. Nicolette, if you could read the request into the record, please.
Yes, Madam Chair, tonight's applicant is property owner Robert and Monica Pisola, parcel number 593-60543, physical address 18868 Nelson Fork Road in Deerwood, and this is located in Deerwood Township as well. We'll go to the location map so I can point out where this is. The parcel here is highlighted in red. We have North Nelson Fork Road, and which leads to County Road 10 here in Deerwood Township, and this is on Shirt Lake. The request tonight is an after-the-fact variance for a road right-of-way setback of 0 feet, where 35 is required, to an existing pole building that was constructed 5.8 feet into the road right-of-way. The 30 by 40 accessory structure was found by an assessor performing their annual reviews. I'll get to the survey here so you can see. This has the environmental services staff reached out to the landowner to inquire about the structure and obtain a permit. And the landowner had stated that their contractor built the building and obtained all land permits. When the environmental services staff told the landowner there was no permit and a variance was needed, Mr. Pasola then got in touch with me and signed up for DRT. It is to my understanding that the contractor was focused on meeting the 100-foot setback here to Shirt Lake, which if you can see the building setback here, it is 101 feet back from Shirt Lake, which in turn ended up pushing this 30 by 40 building into 5.8 feet into the road right-of-way. There are some limitations on this parcel with the location of the septic that kind of sprawls across, and the septic line with the septic drain field that would limit the landowner from crossing over. And we did receive a comment as well from Deerwood Township. They were at the DRT meeting, and we did receive a form that they recommended approval of this request. Nelson Fork Road is a township road. It is dedicated to the public and maintained by the township. No other comments were received, and I can answer any other questions. One more thing I wanted to add. This structure is 17 feet from the driving surface of Nelson Fork Road. I can answer any other questions.
Any questions for Nicolette from the board? Hearing none. Robert, is there anything that you would like to add?
I don't think so. No, just a couple of comments, Madam Chair. My wife and I, we moved up here from California 2.5 years ago. I'm a native of Alexandria, Minnesota, retired pastor. My last church was out here in California. We're out here in California right now because my wife's father passed away. And so we love our community. We were there 2.5 years ago. We just were kind of rookies at this whole thing of building new structures on a property. So we took the word of the contractor that he acquired a permit, which it ends up he didn't, and that he built the structure an adequate space from the road, which he didn't do that either. So that's why I'm asking for the variance. I guess that's really all and we did all the required things. They did delineation, the survey, everything else that we did. So I'm coming to the board asking for a variance for this.
Thank you. At this time, we would open it up to public testimony, and seeing no one in the courtroom, and I don't believe we have anyone online, we would bring this back to the board for discussion and action.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
this is my opinion, I cannot support granting a 0-foot road right-of-way setback to a structure that's 5.8 feet into the road right-of-way. And you look at the survey, I mean, there's room on the southern part of this parcel within a building envelope to have that structure constructed. So at this time, unless board can convince otherwise, I cannot support this application.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
obviously we all have had our adventures with, property and construction people and issues such as this. And an after-the-fact variance, makes me concerned. But I just can't support this because had this come forward timely, this never would have been approved. Absolutely not even close. I mean, if we were close, originally, if based on the original plan, we were pretty close to being in compliance, I'd be supportive, but requesting an after-the-fact variance for a variance that would have died, I can't support.
Other thoughts?
I'm not going to vote to have this guy tear his garage down.
Yeah.
I can't justify that. If the township had which is the road authority, had a huge issue with the placement of that and the proximity to the right-of-way and the road, my attitude would be different, but to force someone to remove a 30 by 40 building that doesn't have any concern with the township, I can't justify that in my mind.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
So obviously it's a difficult choice, right? I think we'd agree with that. I'd have 3 or 4 quick comments. One, as to the fact that the township is the road authority, I'm kind of familiar with that as a township supervisor. But I think we got to be careful about how we use that from a process perspective, because we have many instances where we don't honor the road authority's recommendation to us. Many instances. So I don't think we can use that then in a situation to say, well, but the road authority, you're not necessarily saying this, but we can't then turn around and say, well, if the road authority says that we ought to honor that, as a road authority guy, I'd say I'd like you to be consistent then, and when I make a recommendation, you honor it, because I'm the road authority. So my concern about it is, it's there, and even if the road authority says that, it's 5.8 feet. Not only is it a zero setback, it's 5.8 feet in, and I think the county should have an issue with something that's kind of an egregious violation of our requirements, even if the road authority says it's no big deal. So that's just point one that I would make. And I generally try to be responsive to the road authority issues. The other two issues is I was looking at after the fact criteria today from our training again. And, it's two things strike me. That one, there are no visible similar structures in the area. So that's one of the criteria of considering, is it already constructed? Yes. Are there other structures? No. And the fourth requirement is, is it, that I have a difficulty with, is it reasonable to conclude that the property owner and or their contractor, who is their agent, we hold the property owner accountable, should have known that there was a road setback requirement? Well, they knew there was an OHW requirement because they met it. So to me, it's not reasonable to conclude that you wouldn't know that there is a road setback. And had they submitted the permit, it wouldn't have been issued. And had they come forward with the variance request, it wouldn't have been issued. I can't recall a time where we would approve a variance that's not only not a variance, but it's 5.8 feet into it. So when I look at the criteria, I can't approve it because it doesn't meet the criteria. And if I look at the yes findings, they are weak compared to the no findings. So I won't be supporting the variance.
Madam Chair.
Just one moment. So where my mind is going with this, and I just want to, ask staff too, is, and I think it's where Rock is coming from, is the benefit to the county far outweighing the cost to the applicant for remedying this situation? Are we not still looking at that as an item of consideration?
Yeah, Madam Chair, if it's okay, John did a great job of talking about the after-the-fact criteria, but I'll just try to summarize them in a little bit so as you do an after-the-fact variance, you have to remember we have to always consider the 5 that we consider for the regular variance for the practical difficulty. And then based on that Stadsville case from 2008, the Supreme Court of Minnesota gave us some other criteria that we have to look at as far as that. So some of the things we have to look at would be, as John mentioned, it was, did the applicant fail to obtain a variance or comply with the applicable requirements for commencing work? The question that should be asked is, did the applicant act in good faith? Should be considered. And then the next one is, the applicant attempt to comply with the ordinance by obtaining a proper permit. That's one of the considerations. Number 9 is, did the applicant make up substantial investment or improvement in the property? Number 10, are there similar structures in the neighborhood? And then the last one was, will the benefits to the county appear to be far outweighed by the detriment the applicant would suffer if forced to move or remove the structure? And so that's what we came from.
That is the last one, is the one
that
that I
came
am
from the Supreme
referring
Court.
to.
And it's important to remember that the first 5, we always say that if we answer no to any of those, it's not, you have to deny. If you can't answer the first 5 yes, these are a weigh and balance. You don't have to answer yes or no, all of them, to be able to either approve or deny. So when you look at the findings that staff put together, and you look in the yes and the no's, in the no's we tried to address some of these issues. In the no's, there might be some other things we might want to add into that. But yeah, absolutely. I think it's just very important to point out, just from a factual standpoint, as Rock mentioned, if you guys decide to say no to this, that would then require the structure to be removed and either located in a conforming location or possibly not even to be built. But that is the outcome if you decide to deny the variance today.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
could I just ask a clarifying question? And any one of those criteria can be used as a basis to say I'm going to deny an after the fact. In other words, they're not weighted.
Correct.
So I don't have to give more weight. Does the benefit of enforcement outweigh the other? And so I find that there are two of those requirements that are not met. That would be my finding. And so is the benefit of enforcement? I think when you get so close to the road, there is an issue, potential issue for us. So I think there is a benefit of enforcement, but I'm not going to try to weigh the dollar and cent benefit. I'm just saying, some people jump to that, I think, and say, well, if almost in every case, the answer to that would probably be, it's hard to make the case for the benefit to the county, so everyone could get away with an after the fact. But I don't think we have to weight it that
No,
way.
it's just one of the criteria.
Correct.
It's just
And
one.
it's not it's a pole barn, let's put it in context. It might be a much more difficult issue if it was a house for us. So I stand on that I'm leaning to no, and I would actually be strengthening the findings of no if we go that way. If the board wishes to go to yes, I would be a no.
Madam Chair, I'd like to just make a statement that the property owners, there are property owners, they rely on their contractors, but in my opinion, and the way I look at this, the property owner is responsible to make sure the contractor does pull that permit, that the requirements, setback requirements are being met. And in this case, I mean, there was no permit, there was no variance. I cannot support this.
Okay, further discussion?
How many houses are on this fork road? Or, I mean, is this some heavily traveled thoroughfare?
We can go up to the,
Try
to
to
that,
see, but
to that map where it's, to the aerial map. We can look at that and see what we can observe first, if we can see,
so it's a dead end.
Yes.
correct. And so we're on page 93, like you've got there on yours, Rock, and you can see that there's, obviously it's a residential area with residential type lots, and for houses out there, I guess I really can't. I have to zoom in a little bit to see, maybe try to get a better idea. But there's definitely a house at the end there I can see on North Fork. There's a house to the south, it appears. There's a house to the southwest, it appears.
There's 6 lots,
Yeah.
basically,
1, 2, 3. Yeah.
past this. If this went through and there's this big danger that the building is too close to the, right of way isn't always for safe passage. Right of way is so if they need to improve the road in the future, that they can go 80 feet wide or 66 feet wide instead of a 30, instead of a 22-foot road surface. It's not, if it was right here on the corner of Nelson Drive where everybody's coming past it and it may be more justified. I just don't see the benefit. And this structure's been up for 2 years.
Yes, sir.
And
2.5 years.
2.5 years, and the township hasn't made any comment on it. The neighbors haven't made any comment that, these getting too close, and that phone rings. I'm sure you guys can attest to it. The minute anybody cuts one tree on.
We never got a call from anybody on it besides the assessor reviewing it.
I don't
Madam
see
Chair.
the benefit to the county to make him remove or move or anything else. I understand the justification with your thoughts, but I can't justify making someone move pole barn.
Madam Chair?
Yes, John?
I'm going to propose a motion with findings and then see what the vote is.
Sounds good.
So I'm going to propose a motion of denial, and so I would want to look at findings of no. findings for no. And
We'll put them up on the screen here.
so if we could put the findings of no, because I wish to propose 2 additions to them.
Okay, so the findings are on proposed findings are on page what again, Nicolette?
110 for no.
So I would propose on finding 3, is the property owner proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted in the land use ordinance. I just want to add a 4th bullet that says there were no visible similar structures in the area this close to the road. And on item 4 is the need for a variance.
Just give us a minute to write this down, then
I'm going to talk fast, so sorry. Apologize.
And did you mention when you saw the similar structures that was noted during the on-site visit when we're there, correct? That's based on
We didn't see any.
Based on your on-site
Correct.
visit when you're on this
Correct.
site? Yep, okay.
And to item 4 is the need for a variance due to circumstances unique to the property and not created by the property owner. I want to add item 4, the need for a variance is solely created by the property owner and their contractor. There's nothing unique to the property that creates this variance. And I would just say in discussion relative to my ordinance, again, I should be agreeing with you, Rock, because I'm a township guy. But I would say from a process perspective, if the township was complaining, would we then vote accordingly? We don't always do that. So I think I'm cautious about using the township that way. I mean, we regularly disagree with townships, and they comment on it, by the way, that we regularly disagree. So, yet I very much respect that they have an opinion. Sometimes I disagree with them. So that's my motion, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, I'd like to add to question 3. It is not reasonable to allow a structure to be located 5.8 feet into a road right-of-way when there is room to have the structure located in the existing building envelope shown on the certificate of survey. And then number 4,
Okay,
I like.
let us write this down. Just give us a minute. Remember, it was like when you were the staff person, when they were firing stuff at us left and right, so give us a minute.
Write faster. Shorthand.
Okay. Next one.
4, I would say the need for the variance is created by the property owner by having the structure built without the required building permit or verifying all required setbacks are met.
That's why I requested the variance. I'm not understanding why that's even an issue. The whole purpose of me doing this is requesting a variance for these things, and I've explained to you what happened. And I'm just a little confused here why there's so much discussion about this. The reason for me wanting this variance was the things that we've already talked about.
So I'll answer that, Madam Chair. So a variance, applying for a variance isn't something that's automatically granted. A variance has criteria in statute, and then there's criteria in court, in case law that we have to follow, and that's what the board is using tonight to address, to address your request. And so it's, they understand that your request, and they understand that you're, wanting the variance, and they're weighing the facts as they see them on the site, where they think the variance request meets the requirements of state statute and of case law. So that's what they're wrestling with as they're trying to make this decision today.
Madam Chair, may I speak again?
Yes, sir.
Madam Chair, could we have a second for the motion before we
I'll
proceed?
second it.
Just one moment, please. Robert, we have a motion on the floor, and now we have a second. Now we'll continue with discussion. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I'm sure that you all are aware that if this vote does not pass for the approval of the variance, how much money this is going to cost my wife and I. I assume that you're voting for me to take it down or leave it up. It cost us thousands and thousands of dollars to put that thing up. We moved here into this township, loving this town, and we are very happy here. We love living here. But that will cost us, the pole barn itself cost us $24,000 just to get that thing up. And it's probably going to cost that much to get it down if we have to move it. We do not have that kind of money. So I'm appealing to the mercy of the board. I understand the statutes. I understand that. We did all these things, and I know the owner is responsible ultimately, but this is something, we are, like I said, we're rookies at doing this. I trusted a contractor that I shouldn't have. And I understand that. But surely there must be some mercy that can be shown in this situation.
Thank you for your comments. Going back to, we have a motion on the floor in a second. Any further discussion on the part of the board?
No, Madam Chair, other than to say I truly hear him. Maybe he has a cause of action against his contractor. That's between him and his contractor. But I just can't support something that is this, in my opinion, egregious in terms of our setback requirements. And I apologize that I can't.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor in a second. Is there further discussion, or are we ready to take a vote?
Madam Chair, I just, looking at the survey and the right-of-way lines, so they actually squeeze that right-of-way line up farther than the actual road, traveled road, because of course, they take them as a straight line. It's not as close as it appears if you were to be able to.
Yeah, right there, it'd actually be even worse if you were to use that line versus the black line.
Okay.
Any other discussion or anything else you want to add?
No, I'm
Rob?
good.
Okay. Now we have a motion on the floor in the second. Are we ready to call the vote?
Madam Chair, I recommend a roll call.
Do a roll call vote on this, and
Could you explain the motion that's on the floor?
I wanted to go ahead and have that reread into the record so everyone understands that this is a motion to deny this variance based on the items discussed by the board.
And the revised findings of fact.
Revised findings of fact that
Your on-site visit, your
Et cetera, in the survey.
staff report, all the information.
And the discussion on the review of the criteria for after-the-fact variances,
Okay.
which is part of the record.
John has just added the information to the motion that was initially made, and then I believe it was seconded by Sue.
Yes, I will agree with that.
You agree with that? Okay. So the time has come. All those in favor of the variance denial, please signify by saying aye, and we'll do a roll call. Andy?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Rock?
No.
And I vote aye. So the motion does pass.
You gotta be kidding me.
We'll follow up with you at a later, well, he left, so, okay.
So does this mean I have to take the structure down?
We'll follow up with you after the meeting. We'll get a hold of you. I know you're in some times out in California, so if it works better next week, we can find a time in your schedule to talk about it. But ultimately, yes, the answer is that the structure needs to be moved.
Well, thank you so much for all your mercy, folks.
So that's what we have for the agenda tonight. I do have some items as matters not on the agenda that I'd like to run through you guys tonight, if that's okay, Madam Chair. So I'm going to pass down some packets for everybody to take a look at. We're going to just kind of run through a few things and then be happy to answer any questions and that. But there's just some information I thought it'd be good to share So the first thing I thought would be good to maybe go over and chat about was the decision that the county board made at the December 30th meeting to talk about that potential, about that rezone request up in first assessment to go from that rural residential 1 and shoreline to commercial. The county board in essence decided to deny that request, and so the property did not get zoned to commercial. It is still zoned partially shoreline district and partially rural residential 1. Based on the information that was passed on from the county board, they felt that the findings weren't persuasive enough for them to be able to consider changing that zoning to commercial, and so they developed their own findings of fact and decided to keep that as a residential lot. A couple things that I think are important to point out. One is that, I think from a staff perspective, we could have done a better job of helping draft a better set of preliminary findings. I don't think we did as good a job as we could have on that, and so we're gonna do better. So we'll work and get better findings put together for you guys in the packet from a preliminary standpoint. Another question that was brought up by the county board was that we had missed the opportunity to put some of the comments that we received after the packet was published. Unfortunately, we didn't get those put in the packet to the county board either. So that was something that we've fixed internally now to make sure that we have that taken care of. The other thing that I don't think we did as good a job was going over past history on it. And so some information that you guys didn't have, I think, would have been helpful. So, the fact that this was requested commercial back in 1983, and the county board denied it to go to commercial at that point, and it was also denied back in 1998 by the county board to deny it to commercial. And so that wasn't communicated as well to you as from a staff perspective. So and I'm going to kind of go over a little bit. We've kind of revised our packets a little bit, and we want to go over kind of how we're changing things a little bit to address some of those issues. And so you'll see also staff reports are going to be a little bit more in depth and go over some of these facts. We're going to slow down a little bit and really make sure that we cover all of our bases. I think you heard when Nicolette did her staff presentations tonight that a little bit more information. So we're going to spend a little bit more time, I think, and not maybe try to rush through the staff report. Just take a little more time and try to make sure that we really get you guys all the relevant information that you need to see.
Well, thanks for your candor. I appreciate that. Yeah, this is a work in progress.
It really is. It is. And I think that, anytime the county board decides that they want to make a different decision than the planning commission does, I think it's important to review why and, what were their reasons. And, I think it's a situation where there's nothing to take personal. It wasn't, they were just disagreeing. They just felt that maybe you guys didn't have all the facts that they maybe had to be able to make that decision. So,
and I agree with Andy. And there are times they make a decision that's different than what we recommend for their own reasons. Leave it at that, right? In this case, they didn't think they got the best factual recommendation. So they made a factual decision, right, unanimously.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, I always look at that as a learning opportunity to step back and say, how would we do that better the next time?
Yep.
Nothing more than that.
Yep. Unless there's any questions about that, we'll jump into, they did adopt the ordinance as you recommended. What they decided to do was to require the 10-foot setback for recreation or general development lakes and recreational development for those situations where we're going to try to restore based on a shoreline alteration permit to create a shore rec area. And then on the natural environment lake, they kept it at 25. And so I asked staff, we put together kind of maybe this might be crude, I'm not sure. We did the best we could with, I don't think we're too artistic, but we want to make sure there's two standards for vegetation in the county. And I think that was part of the confusion maybe with with the public as well, I think. But so if you look at the top, undeveloped lots. So this is a lot that nothing's built on it. It's a native lot. Vegetation's still there. Everything's, nothing's been removed. If you look at the GD lakes, we're going to regulate that vegetation in the first 37.5 feet away from the lake. Recreational development lakes, 50 feet. Natural environment lakes, 75 feet. Then if you jump over to our rivers, it's general development rivers are going to be 50 feet. Natural environment rivers are going to be 75. Mississippi is 75, and our cold water rivers are 100 feet. So in those areas, in that shore impact zone 1, you are limited to being able to clear 30% of your shoreline 25 feet back to create a shoreline rec area. That's where you might want to put a little bit of sand for the grandkids to play in. Maybe that's where you want to maybe have your dock come out and build a little patio down there. And the remainder is meant to be left alone. The ordinance does allow, so if you see over here on the bottom right, the ordinance says intensive vegetation clearing in shore impact zone 1 is not allowed. Limited vegetation clearing is allowed with the permit activities in the ordinance. And then just again, shoreline vegetation is not something new to the county and our ordinance. So if you have a lot that's 15% or more impervious and you get a permit, you have to do a stormwater plan. 20% or more, you have to do stormwater and that vegetated buffer. What you guys approved, or recommended approval to the county board, was in the bottom left, which was this is a lot that's been developed for years and years and years, and they mow down to the water's edge. What we have in place now is if they come in for a shore alteration permit because they want to do the beach area or whatever they want to do, this is saying on a general development, recreation development, they're going to have to leave 10 feet back from the lake and that remaining 70% at 8 inches of vegetation. That's that no maintenance buffer that you recommended to the board that they put in for verbiage. On a natural environment lake, it's going to be 25 feet. So I think the confusion has been that the old standard that we had recreational, our GD and the RD was we're going to protect shore impact zone 1. Then we had a separate standard for natural environment lakes that said we're going to protect 25 feet. And so this actually strengthens the ordinance by now saying, no, natural environment lakes, we're going to protect the 75 feet on those lakes that have they have not been, touched. But on the lakes that have been touched, we're going to maintain that 25-foot buffer, which would go back to what was in that previous piece. So I think it gets the best of both worlds. And so I hope this helps you to maybe visualize what we're trying to accomplish. When I was at the county board, I crudely made a drawing on the back of a piece of paper and tried to show it to the board like that. And I think it maybe helped for some, but it didn't help for others. And so just tried to make this happen. So try to help. So I hope this helps a little bit.
Nicely done.
This is good. Thank you.
So just wanted to share a little bit about our numbers for 2025, just as far as permits. So we issued 1,181 permits in 2024. That's 3 more than last year, so we're pretty much on line with last year. I won't go through the numbers, but you'll see a majority of them are residential. So if you see LUP, land use permit. So that's a residential land use permit. Residential SAP, that's shoreline alteration permit. So that's what you're going to, if you're working on your shoreline. CLUP, that's a commercial land use permit, and then commercial shoreline alteration permit. So those are the numbers, the breakdown. Permit turnaround time, so when you submit a complete application to our office, you're going to get an approved permit in 4.7 days. Office goal that we've set department-wide is 10 days, and so I think staff, and that's going to get lower next year because the staff were just getting more experience in that. I think you're going to see that number even go lower next year. Site visits, we did almost 2,100 site visits last year. Our goal for 2026 is we're hoping to get closer to 3,000 site visits on the property, doing inspections, meeting with contractors, meeting with with citizens and landowners, really helping them to make good choices and reviewing to make sure that variances and permits have been approved, that things are in good place. So that I think is really important. We had 459 designs approved last year. I think one of the things, the data points I think is really important. If you look at compliance inspections, we had 778 compliance inspections submitted, 646 compliant, 66 non-compliant, 92% passing. We were 93% passing last year. So we've been tracking this since 2010. And if you take that number, we've probably done 12, 13,000 inspections on our septics. You're in that 92 to 95% passing rate. And the ones that aren't passing, they upgrade them. So we're working on getting those upgraded. And we do have a few that are over in the county attorney's office because they didn't want to upgrade them. So if you don't want to upgrade it, you don't just get to not do it. We still have some ways that we work on that. We had 237 enforcement cases that we had this year, and then we had a couple tails from previous years. We're able to get 185 of those closed. We have 52 open, 78% of those are, so we have a closure rate. There are some that are not in that 52 open that are in the county attorney's office. So we when it moves to the county attorney's office, we change that status so that we know how many are over there and then how many we're still working on. DRT meetings in 2025, we had 163. 2024, we had 209, and 2023 had 186. So we were down on DRT meetings this year from previous years. If you look at public hearings, we had 127 hearings this year. Last year we had 121, and the previous year we had 124. What I want to point out to you guys, which I think is really important, and this is kind of the direction I think that you gave staff when I came back in 2023. If you go to 2023 and you see after-the-fact variances, there were 17 after-the-fact variances in 2023. In 2024, there were 12. 2025, there were 3. So from a staff perspective, we're really working hard to get these folks to make sure that we're not having these, similar with the applicant tonight, which is unfortunate, to make, to help folks, make good choices and get the permits on the front end, do it right, and that. And we're also having situations where folks aren't doing it right, and we're saying, there's nothing to apply for. I mean, they can come and ask for it, but we're telling them their chances are not good because of your consistent action and how you've been treating these after-the-fact variances and that. And so we've been fixing their problems before they come to you guys.
If I do my math right, I think it says that 5% of our permits get variances.
Right. Yep.
To the argument, everybody gets a variance. No,
Nope.
95% follow all the setbacks, all the
Right.
requirements.
Yep.
It's quite the exception, really.
It is, absolutely. So, and then I just have the numbers for what we do for the Wetland Conservation Act as far as what have we done for different applications and the different, if you look at that really long acronym, that LGR, WRP, that's our local road replacement program. So if anytime a local government unit like a township or the highway department, MnDOT does their own, they need to sometimes do road work. Sometimes there's some wetland impacts to that. We have regulation over that. We have a process that the state requires us to follow, but the state replaces those wetland credits. We just have to work with the LGUs to minimize that to the greatest. So that's what we live in acronyms on the staff side, and sometimes you guys don't. But just wanted you to see that so you kind of get an idea for that.
Are you sharing this also with the county board?
We're going to, yep. And so we do an annual land services report to the board, and so a lot of this information is going to be in there and part of that, yep. Couple things I wanted to talk about. If you look at your packet, just go to the beginning of just a packet, any packet. We realize that sometimes, depending on the application type, our packets were a little bit different. And so we're going to try to have our packets be very consistent. And you'll notice tonight, I hope you recognize that Nicolette said, here's a locator map, here's where this is located, sometimes I think we zoom right on the parcel, and sometimes if it's not in your area, if you're not familiar with this, you might not know where these parcels are located. So we're trying to do that. We're also trying to, as you look at the staff report, this is all going to look the same. Everything going down is all going to be very consistent. And one of the changes we're making is so when people come in for DRT, we used to have a different permit or different report format. DRT reports now are going to look like county board or look like PC reports. So that way, when the DRT application comes in, we just migrate that over into the planning commission, and you've got 90% of the work done because you've already done we were, I think, redoing work that we didn't need to do. And so if you go through, you'll see you're going to have a much more clear history on the parcel and trying to explain what was some of the past history that we think is really important for you to know. Go back up to the maps.
Can you scroll back down? Just one more. I'm going to ask a dumb and unrelated question. Look at the name of the lake. It's showing, it says Bay Lake. That tells me it's Bay Lake. I just figured out
Nope.
that's not the lake.
So that's a GIS problem.
I'm slow.
And so
okay?
that's Bay Lake Township.
Yeah,
Correct.
I'm
And so
slowly
you're
picking
going to
up
see
things.
things like you might, if we're in Nokia Lake, you might see that's the township, unfortunately. If it's the lake, you'll see the lake name and then you'll see a number after. It'll be 18- something because so the state has created a division, basically they've identified all the lakes. We're 18, it's just alphabetical. Aiken is 01, we're 18. They put a dash and then they put the lake number after it, so.
You'd have giggled had you seen me thinking,
That's not on
Wow.
Bay Lake.
Bay Lake's got some exact same road names as
As
Hanks.
Hanks, yeah,
I
no.
wonder where that is.
Yeah. No. Sometimes it takes a little while to get that going. But so what we're going to do, the map, what your package going to look like is that you're going to see an identifier. You're going to see the identifier. The next map is going to be a zoomed-in version. The aerial. The next map is going to show you the topography. The next map is going to show you the FEMA map if there's a floodplain issue. And then we're going to show you the survey. If we have one, if it's a LUMA, we're not going to have a survey for those, rezones, but we're going to have the survey data. We might have wetland, at this point, there'll be some other data, whatever they provide us, but that's going to be very set and rigid as we go forward. And if we keep going down further, like on this one had the site suitability, so this was that one over on Hanks with Megan Court over there. So just want to go over that. I think it's going to be much easier for you guys to look at and easier for the board to have these reports just be more consistent format so they look the same.
And the conditions will always be right after the request.
We're actually gonna put, we're gonna put the findings and the conditions are gonna go after the findings.
Okay, because personally for me, I like to see the conditions right before, here, we have a request for a variance.
Okay.
To do X, and then I kind of like to see the conditions, because if I'm going to make a motion, I go to that screen as to what my motion's going to be.
Okay.
And if I got to go all the way down to find to note that there's 7 conditions, it's easier if they're right there.
Why don't you show them, Sophie, hold of it.
Do you see the point there?
Right.
So there's where we have the potential conditions are in that, I misspoke, they're in the same spot as they usually have been. It's just at the bottom of the report.
I just think they're kind of easier if they're closer to where the motion's going to be, then you know what the conditions are.
staff report,
Or,
Yeah,
or
So you'd want them to be right there.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, we can do that.
I don't know what others people, because if I'm going to make a motion, I want to say that there's 7 conditions. It's easier,
Right.
otherwise I got to scroll down and
We can
find
do
out
that.
other conditions.
Yeah, we can do that.
or they move everything, take the request and put it down
Either way,
right above the conditions.
Yeah, but we'll put the condition and the request side by side.
they're aligned
Yeah,
together.
we can do that.
Whichever way is.
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, we can definitely do that.
I agree with you on that. It's.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then after that, we'll have,
Well, you forget there's conditions.
well, and then we'll have pictures that we took on the on-sites, and then you have the findings will be the last. That'll be the last part of the packet, will be the
Okay.
proposed findings, so. Yep, they are backed by the findings too, so they're in 2 spots, so.
Right, but they're not by.
Because
the-
it's
see where
nice for
John
us
is
to
by
have them backed by the
request.
findings, because then when we're looking at the findings, you can say, what are the conditions again? Bloop, I go to the one before
You
it,
got
so.
it.
Yeah,
It makes it easier.
it's just
I agree
easier
with
if you're going
John.
to make a motion.
Yeah, we'll do that for sure. No, we're on board.
Have them in 2 spots, that's the challenging part, that I think it was, who did it, where she put the motion and the conditions down by the findings, because you're scrolled down, then you gotta scroll all the way back up to remember what the motion
We'll put
was.
the conditions up, and then, because it is helpful for us to have them down by the findings when you get there, because you might say, can you go look, remember the findings again? We just scroll 1 page up and it's right there, but I can see where you would want it by the recommended action. So we can do that, no problem at all. Any other questions about the packet or anything along those lines? The other thing I want to talk, a couple other things. One is that the minutes are going to be a little bit different with the new system we've got. In the past, when we would put the minutes up for you to review, you get that email through. It's now not, it doesn't, if we put the minutes in, it publishes it as approved. It just publishes it. So you either can look at it through iLegislate, which you have that option now, or we can just email you a PDF of it when, because we want to get those minutes to a week before the meeting. We can just email the PDF to you too.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yep.
Is there any reason that the minutes can't be just attached in this?
They could be in the packet as well.
The
Yep.
agenda packet, because
Does everybody use iLegislate?
No.
what do you mean?
Yeah.
So are you meaning?
I mean, that's how I get into the review
That's the only way I
the
can see
packets.
the packet, isn't it?
No, you can go to the website too. So why don't you, will you pop up the website and show them where?
I love iLegislate.
I have
We're
no.
gonna continue using that, but there's 2 ways to do it. There's 2
I don't know
ways.
how I got onto it. It took me
So if you click
40
the
minutes trying to find the agenda in minutes.
Yep, if you click the county board button, county board meetings,
Plus you can see the county board stuff now.
and then it's gonna be right there. You see where it says
Fun
planning
stuff.
commission?
Yep, that's where I finally found it.
That's where it's at. But we can put the minutes in the packet, which I think would make sense.
Well,
So-
Okay, we'll start
because
doing
then I'm
that.
looking at my whole
That's what
packet
we'll
and
do.
I'm reading the minutes.
So,
Not everybody, because I legislate though. What do you mean put it in the packet?
So as we look at our agenda for the meeting,
Chris, so there's no more,
I would upload draft minutes then?
it'd be just in the staff packet that we put out, we publish on the website, the minutes will be in there. Just in the packet. Yeah.
And just say draft on it, okay.
Yep, and then, because that's typically how I've seen in other boards, you have the draft minutes in the packet.
That's how ours are.
Yeah, I think that would make the most sense. Yeah, let's do that. Does that work?
so there's no more going through meeting portal. You have to go into the county board meetings to get the,
Whichever way you want to access that packet.
Yep, so when,
well, I've been going through iLegislate because that's the only way I knew that we could do it.
so the other way to, this is how the public gets there.
Yeah.
If you're John Q. public that wants to know this,
But
this is how you get
if
there.
I go into that, then I can't make notes.
Correct, right.
Okay.
This is just for,
And you actually see the county board stuff in iLegislate as well.
correct.
Right? The only thing you aren't seeing so far is videos, right? You have
Right.
to go to YouTube, I think.
Yep, and we can show you, actually, if you click
America's Funniest Home Videos.
on the left side there, you'll see where it says county board playlist. That's where that's where you go watch the county board meetings, and then PCBOA, that's where you go watch. They're all on YouTube.
Yeah.
And so if you click on that, it takes you to YouTube, and you can watch
So
them.
if
You
we-
can either watch it live or you can watch it recorded.
So if we do want to do the notes, and I really like this
You
for
have to
doing the notes.
continue doing
I
iLegislate.
love it.
Yep.
The only thing that I don't like, and I haven't figured if you can do it, is if you're typing notes, you want to type notes, then you gotta get out of the packet, and then to go, you have to go back into the packet to review some more stuff, so you're constantly going back and forth on that, but
This is really slick, actually.
I really do like this.
Yeah. One thing we're going to add to the packet too is approval of the agenda. Because, like tonight, when we pull that one off, it would be great if staff would say, if you would, next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda, just like the county board does it. And you would say, staff, any changes? We'd say, well, yes, there is, Madam Chair, thank you. We're going to police, and then you'd make a motion so it's more formalized to say, this is the agenda that we're working with tonight, and these other two have now been removed. So we're gonna put, that'll be something new on the agenda for next.
Yeah, because it wasn't they didn't actually table, those applications weren't actually tabled.
You didn't table them. They
They
withdrew.
were withdrew.
And then, not withdrew completely, but withdrew for action tonight.
Withdrew
So
from
there's
the
still,
meeting, so they
there's
didn't-
still live applications, but I think it would be much more clear.
Is it process-wise best if we published our agenda and we noticed all of those? Should we have tabled them?
I don't think you need to, because I think of times like the other day at the county board, they brought up where, Steve looked at Debbie and said, any others for the agenda? She goes, well, we're going to pull item 2.3. Okay, and then so agenda now with item 2.3 moved, motion second, they approved the agenda. They didn't table it. They just said, we're going to pull that for this meeting. So that's what this is. We're just going to pull those items for the meeting. And so we would just then have you update the agenda by taking a motion second to adopt that.
Okay, that works.
And so we would do that moving forward every time, just approve the agenda.
So now,
Yep,
run it
'cause
by
there
me
might-
one
'cause there-
more
'cause-
time. How are we going to be getting our minutes and findings?
They're going to be in the packet. Yep, they'll be in the packet.
They're in the regular
Yep, they'll be in the
We'll
packet
get
going
on
forward.
Say draft
Yep.
over it.
Yep.
Okay, all right.
So how do you get to iLegislate?
I can email you a link.
Yep,
I can email you
there's a link with a
link.
password, and then you get into it, so.
Yep.
Then you can have your kids show you how to do it.
I'll send you an email.
We did, but of course
can
that
send-
lost my
play around,
password. and don't know what it is.
Yeah, I will. I'll send
Yeah,
it to you, Andy,
yeah.
in case you.
I do
Thank you.
like this, so.
So the next thing I put in your packet, I don't think we need to go through these verbatim, but it's just a reminder of the findings that we have. And, I think a couple things that we need, that we're good, that from a staff perspective, we want to let you know that we're going to do a little bit of a more thorough job on these findings, would be trying to do a better job in the findings of explaining the situation. So a situation like with Mr. Soderman tonight with his land use map amendment, when it talks in, there's a question under number 2, it says, is the reclassification warranted due to changed land use or circumstances or a need for additional property for the district? That finding is going to say, Mr. Soderman wants to create a 5-acre lot on the northwest side of the property so that he can sell that to his kid. That's what it is. And so we're going to put more facts like that in the findings so that we're not going to kind of beat around the bush,
Really, so that his son can get a mortgage on the property.
Right.
What the-
Well, and
without
to be
having
honest, that was
20 acres.
That was not what we discussed.
Right.
So that was, when he brought that up, we're like, curveball, that wasn't really,
So that they can't take more than 5 acres when they repossess it, if something would happen.
or he decided to sell, yeah.
But I like what you're proposing because it's not just restating the comp plan or something, it's actually speaking to the application.
Right, and there might be situations where it might be a little more challenging, where somebody comes and says, I want to change this to commercial. I might not be able to say, well, they're going to put a gas station in, or they're going to put in a Cabela's, or, I don't know. So the ones that we know, we'll tell you, and the ones that we don't know, we won't tell you, and then you're going to have to decide, well, if I don't have enough information, maybe I don't recommend approval of that land use map amendment, so,
Well, I think if you look at them right, as I read them tonight, if you think one is weaker than the other, it does trigger me to think,
yeah.
well, I gotta rethink about this then, right?
Yep,
If the
exactly.
yeses seem weak, then I start to think, well, what about the noes? And I guess it gets you to kind of process that a little bit. That's helpful to me, at least.
So are there any, like, when you look at the findings of fact for, so we basically got finding of fact for variance, CUP and intermuse are the same findings, plats, and LUMAs. Are there any findings that you go, what does that really mean? And so that, because I think sometimes if somebody has question, like, what does this question mean? It'd be good for us all to talk about it so we can say, this is what it means to us. So we have that consistency. And I don't know if there's anything here, or if you maybe want to take a look at it this month and maybe come with the matters on the agenda next month, and we can maybe talk through if you have what is this finding trying to get at more? So we can try to maybe answer some of those questions.
'Cause I'm glad you mentioned that, because there've been a number of times, like one of the items tonight, I read through it again, looked at the map and thought, what do they want to do? What's going on?
Yep.
And I'm attributing that to my, novice status, but
Well, I think it'd be a good idea to maybe, even because next month we have 3 applications next month. And so we could definitely, we'll have time at the
Go
end
back
of,
and-
and we could just, maybe we just walk through each one of these, maybe you just take the month, if you want to look at them this month, and then next month, let's just walk through each one, and let's just say, this is what this means. Everybody, right? We're on say, so that way, I think, going in, because, I think one of the things that John's brought to the board, sometimes it drives me nuts, but I think it's right, is that consistency, right? I mean, so I think the more that we can talk with, because consistency in land use sometimes is a great idea, and sometimes implemented is challenging. But if we can be on the same page for what these questions are trying to get at, it'll make our findings a lot clearer, a lot cleaner, and a lot easier to do.
And Chris knows that on the land use map amendment, I called him this week because question number 2 basically says, is it warranted due to a change in land use circumstances or a need for additional property in the proposed land use district? A literal reading of that says that somebody that wants to come and get Johnny his 5 acres doesn't meet that question. So I had to assume that a changed land use circumstance is I want to will
It
this
is.
to my heirs.
That's what, that's
how I'm
exactly what,
interpreting it.
and that's how we interpret it the same way. That's how we see it. I mean,
But I mean, you could also literally say, no is the answer.
yeah.
So
So just maybe just take, read through these, maybe make some notes if you have questions, and then we can come back and just talk through it so that we're all on the same page and knowing kind of, I think that would be really helpful for kind of especially since we're a little slow tonight, we're a little bit slow next week, or next month, we don't have a bunch of applications coming up, so.
I'm a Norwegian, I don't have an excuse.
So, a couple things I wanted to chat about just real quick. I think just some common pitfalls that we make sure we need to avoid. Make sure that we're not telegraphing our decision before the meeting. We're not sitting down and saying, I think this is horrible, and before you've kind of, make sure that we're not telegraphing that you've made your decision. Neighborhood opposition. So, one thing that we're going to do differently going forward than we've done in the past is that when the people come up that want to talk, either loving it or hating it, we're going to make the notes and write down the questions of what they're saying. And then when it comes back to the board, if the chair would like, you can say, staff, would you answer the questions that they brought up? Absolutely. And we'll go down that list and we'll answer those questions.
That'd be great.
So that way I think they feel like they're heard, because I think sometimes they come back and we don't respond. And so I think at least they may not like the response I give, but at least we gave them a response. And so that's, I think, a change that we'd like to make going forward, and we'll take care of that.
But it also makes it a better record.
It absolutely does. And so we're going to do that. The other part about when we're dealing with the folks is personal feelings versus actual feelings, right? So let's make sure that, as we're dealing with stuff, we're pulling out the facts and we're not, we're trying to, sometimes people get really anxious up there and they start spitting stuff out like, oh my gosh, my property's going to devalue and my house is going to burn down. People make up weird stuff. You gave me one fact. I know you're up there for 5 minutes. All I got was, but let's pull that one fact out. So just focusing on the facts. Then the other one is just conflict of interest. There is the perceived versus actual. If you feel like you have a perceived, then maybe you should just feel confident that say, hey, I got to step away, provided we have a quorum. So that's what gets me a little nervous. If all of a sudden we don't have a quorum and you're not, maybe it's not actual, but you feel like it's more perceived. Think those through, but typically speaking, I think if you feel like you have some sort of a conflict of interest, identify it. Say it to the board. You can still be part of the conversation as you're mulling it over, but when it comes time to vote, you would abstain. Okay?
I think it's also important, again, from training, conflict of interest is usually always around a financial.
Correct.
So it's not that if I know you, that's not a conflict of interest.
No, I agree with that. So a lot of times you go, well, that's my fifth cousin removed. It's like, no, I think if like you're sitting here and your spouse is there, well, that might be a conflict, right? Maybe. So
Don had that problem.
He did have that a couple times. So the other one, so I think that's just the conflict side of it. And then the other one, a couple others, is just making sure that we have a serial. We don't want to violate the open meeting law by a serial violation. And what that means is that Andy calls John and says, hey, what do you think about that application? And John says, I hate it. I'm going to say no. Okay. Then Andy calls Sue. Hey, Sue, what do you think? Oh, I hate it too. Right there, you just violate the open meeting law because you talked to more than, you can talk to any two people anytime you want, but it has to stay within that too. And so, let's say that you two talk and Andy comes over and talks to Rock, which you can do. You just can't go back to John you can't go back and tell John what Rock told you. So make sure we don't want to do that.
Rock has to come and tell me.
Correct. That's different. It is the reality. The other one is just emails. So when we send you out emails, we're going to really, our goal, our policy is to blind copy you. Because if let's say we just do a carbon copy and you do a reply all with a response, that's technically a violation of the open meeting law again, because you talked about an application or something and everybody was aware of it without it being in here before it was published. So don't hit reply all, just hit reply, and then we try to prevent that with blind copies. So the other one is just making sure that we have findings of fact, like tonight for the application. Which one do we had?
Chris,
we didn't
can
have.
we back up
Yeah,
to
go ahead,
open
Andy. I'm
meeting
sorry.
law? There's another, and I don't mean to stir the pot, but I'll just toss it on the table because if it ever comes up, I don't want you to get blindsided. One could make the argument that us driving around on site visits is a meeting that needs to be disclosed. And
It is. We publish every meeting.
Oh, it is?
It's absolutely, oh yeah, because that's an open, so if somebody wants to come with, they are able to follow our vehicle out, and they can, when you guys are out doing stuff, they can't sit in the van with us, but they can, so, but yeah, no, we publish every one of those. Every one of those is published for the open meeting law, absolutely. Yep.
Anybody ever come along?
We've had people meet us at sites, like I'm thinking about the horseshoe variance a couple years ago, we had the neighbors. So the neighbors will typically say, hey, we're gonna go do an on-site. Can I show up? The two things we say is maybe, because if the landowner won't let you on the property, I can't tell the landowner to let the neighbor on their property. So sometimes the neighbor has to stand, they have to stand on their own property, and then we can go over and talk to them.
Sure.
So it's up to the landowner to let them on. The other one is if the landowner won't let them on, then you guys have to go down and do your reviews in groups of two. You couldn't go down all five of you by yourself and then come back, so you'd have to go in groups if that happens. We've had that happen once that I can remember where they wouldn't let somebody on the property.
And I like our on-sites, we talk about concerns and try to reflect the concern in the on-site meeting.
Yes.
And that's when we ask for yeses and nos, which I think communicates that we haven't made a decision, we're waiting for the input.
Yep, and so that's one I want to bring up about the findings of fact. So if we have an application where all that's in the application, in the packet is one finding or the other, yes or no. Let's say that either one, and you're like, oh, I see you put yes findings in, but I think it should be a no. Don't forget to do findings. You know, we'll do our best to remind you, but you can't just go, whoa, we no, and then if we don't have the findings, we're in trouble. So make sure that we always have those findings. You know, for us, the things that's from a staff perspective, we need to make sure we provide written notice, and we've changed how we do that. So the chair used to sign them, and we used to give them out that night with handwritten stuff on it. It was kind of, I think it was hokey. So tomorrow morning, Stacy will print up the notice of decision. It'll be typed up, looks great. I sign it, and then we send it off to the folks so they get that. So it's a little bit more professional. The other one is just making sure that our record is clear. You did a great job tonight of discussing with Pasola. If he decides to sue us, I'm convinced we're going to win in court. I think there's no question about it because you chatted. A lot of what you have in the findings written are great. The judge is more concerned about what you said versus what was written down. So that was a really great way to make sure we had a really clear record, even though some of us didn't agree with it. But the other one is just making sure that our conditions connect to the request. So like with Pasola today, let's say that you approve that, and you said, oh, by the way, you need to go do a 20-foot buffer down on Shirt Lake. You can't do that. The conditions have to be related to their request at hand. So this is a right-of-way setback, you know, and so you couldn't, if they want to do a variance by the lake, you couldn't come back and say, oh, you know what, looks like you built a shed, now you got to move that because it's too close to the right-of-way. You've got to stay in your lane as far as what that application request was. I'm going to jump back to findings, and something that was brought to my attention this week that I've never thought about, it's something you always learn. So when, let's say we get a request and they ask for 4 variances, we do a finding of fact that really just like